If the bosses of Sky Soccer Saturday had an element of compassion, they'd programme a long ad break at about 3:35 on Saturday because one of their guests, making his first appearance on the programme, has a rather important agenda elsewhere. For Harry Redknapp's horse, Shakem Up'Arry, runs in Europe's richest handicap hurdle, the Betfair Hurdle at Newbury, and Redknapp is desperate to watch the race, having given a commitment to football some 5 weeks ago. There are so many people now involved in racing who were ex-footballers and vice versa. You think of Mick Shannon, you think of Michael Owen, Kevin Keegan owning an Air Gold Cup winner, and more recently, the likes of Charlie Austin. But for Harry, this has been something of a lifelong love affair between himself and the sport of kings.
Well, I used to have a guy stand behind me at West Ham when I was manager, and for 90 minutes he would shout at me right behind my dugout, "Shake 'em up, Harry! Shake 'em up, Harry!" I used to come home Saturday nights after a game, and I couldn't. It's all I could hear. I couldn't. Was this guy's voice? "Shake 'em up, Harry!" And so when I got a horse, I've got to call it "Shake 'em up, Harry." And I used to have another guy when I played over in the chicken run. He shouted, "Wake up, Harry!" And so I thought I've got to have a "Wake up, Harry" as well.
But for Harry, this has been something of a lifelong love affair between himself and the sport of kings.
My name was the bookies runner in our street in the East End of London, Maggie Brown, right, my name. And I would, Cyril the paper boy, he used to sell papers. He'd have been 60 odd, but we still called him Cyril the paper boy. He'd have a little trilby hat on, always a suit with a shirt and tie. And I can see him now, Cyril. He'd come round to my nan's, and my nan would collect all the bets off all the old girls in our street. And Cyril would come round. She'd drop them in his paper bets. Take the paper, lunchtime, Star News or Standard, drop the bets in. She'd put them in a little bag, drop them in his bag. I used to come over for my school dinner. My nan would be taken up the Poplar police station, her Black Mariah, because it was illegal. And she used to say, "Your dinner's in," I'm only like 6, 7, 8 years of age. "Your dinner's in the oven, boy." She said, "I'll only be an hour." And they'd go up there, slap her on the wrist, "Maggie, you mustn't do this," because betting was illegal. And it was, so the only way you got the result, they'd sit around the radio at night at 6 o'clock. "Here's today's sports report." For 1 o'clock at Newbury, first numbers, and they'd give out the results. My nan would, and next day Cyril would come round, same routine. He'd have the little bag, he'd give her the winners. Sally South won 3 tuppeny doubles and a tuppeny treble. That was the normal standard bet. 3 tuppeny doubles and a tuppeny treble. I had no choice but to get into race, to be interested. It was, my nan I'd come home from school when I couldn't read or write at 8 years of age, and she'd be giving me a pen to dig in to pick out a couple of horses out the paper for her.
But does he ever think he'd get more involved than just as an owner and passionate racegoer in racing?
Well, I did buy a yard. I had a yard down with Nick Mitchell trained for me. Great guy, lovely, a good young trainer, and he's doing very well again. Nick has come back into it. We had a yard down in a little village called Piddle Trentide down in Dorset. Great, beautiful little village. And I had that for a few years with Nick, and I didn't sort of go out looking for owners, really. That was the trouble. Nearly all the horses in the yard belonged to me. And but I enjoyed it. It was good fun. I think, and then Nick decided to do something else and come out of it. So I sort of came out of it at the time as well. But it was good fun. But no, I'm happy to have my horses, with people like Ben and they know what they're doing. And but no, it was good. I used to enjoy going up there in the mornings, watch the horses on the gallop. It was only 25, 30-minute drive for me in the morning, so I used to love that, to be honest. But I don't think I certainly wouldn't be a trainer. I wouldn't know enough about I wouldn't know how to train. No, there's nothing worse than having somebody. It must be murder when you're a trainer and you've got some busy owner telling you what you should be doing when they haven't never sat on a horse in their life. It's a little bit like football when people keep coming up to you and telling you what to do and how you should do it, and you think, well, what have you actually done? And it'd be a bit like racing. I wouldn't have the nerve to try to train a horse and kid people, and I knew what I was doing, because I wouldn't.
And hand on heart, jumps or flat?
Oh, I love it all, don't I? I love the jumps. I love I love a day out, wrapping up warm, as I say, got a Newbury, Sandown, Wincanton, Fontwell, all them places. I enjoy That's for me. That's a go and just be with the punters and have a cup of tea and, you know, at Wincant with all the old farmer boys down there. I love it. It's great, you know, day out at Wincant and smashing days out.
Harry Redknapp's one of the most popular characters in sport. Who else could have successfully managed both Southampton and Portsmouth, fierce rivals, and added the South Coast trio with Bournemouth as well? But for Harry, it will be a big Saturday if he A, makes a successful debut as a television pundit. That shouldn't be a problem. And then Shakem Up'Arry can go on and win. And just to keep his racing interest alive, there's a horse called Wake Up Harry that has an entry in a certain race at Epsom the first weekend in June.